Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Director, one of the writers and producers of Fire of Love, now streaming on Disney+. This is an amazing story, stunning videography and photography, and we're going to get to all of that here in just a second, Sarah, but I got to find out a little bit about you. How old were you when the desire to show the world through film first hit you?
That's a great question. I think I was about 18 or 19 when I first became enthralled with filmmaking and specifically with documentary film. That's when the bug bit, so to speak.
Okay. Was there a specific documentary director or film director or photographer or videographer that kind of inspired you?
There were many. I think at first, there were really a number.
Okay.
I really loved the work of a French filmmaker named Agnes Varda. She really inspired me. The Coen brothers' work. I remember I first saw from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," and I was moved by the music and the imagery altogether. There was a number that kind of really ignited a sense of curiosity, but also kind of blew me away with like, oh, wow, you can do this. I kind of hadn't really explored film prior to being 18, 19, 20.
Sure.
And so once I started to, I was kind of met with a whole new world.
Well, you and I are friends now because that's one of my favorite movies. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is just, it's genius. It's genius work, and you're right, the music is really good. So now, other than being world-renowned volcanologists, what made Katya and Maurice Craft so special?
Oh, I love that question. Katya and Maurice, they were guided by such a profound passion. And it was a passion for such a rare thing, for volcanoes. For them, being close to an erupting volcano was almost like being in the presence of the divine. It gave them meaning in life. It's how they wanted to really kind of live out their days. Something about being close to that danger, but also exploring the mystery that gave their life meaning. And they got to do it with the person they loved. So they're tremendously inspiring people who've really taught me a lot about kind of philosophy and science and love all at once.
I think there's a great benefit to being made to be felt small, if you will, as a human in the presence of something on this planet that will kind of just make you feel not insignificant, but just small, Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that Katya and Maurice felt all the time and communicated so beautifully. Right. I think that being in the proximity of volcanoes, just this powerful force and something that feels nearly immortal, set against kind of just the fragility of a human life. For them, that helped to kind of concentrate how they wanted to live their days. A very important thing that we really tried to bring into our film. I think, we here in Kansas feel the same thing, and we'll liken it to, tornadoes. As devastating and destructive as they are, there is a sense of wonder when something like that happens. Now, how did you decide to tell the story of Katya and Maurice? Like, what inspired you about their story? How did you find out about it?
I found out about Katya and Maurice actually when I was doing research with my team on the last film I made. That film was shot in Iceland, and Iceland is a volcanic island. We wanted to find some imagery from the past of erupting volcanoes in Iceland for that film. Mm-hmm. And it was through doing that research that we learned about Katya and Maurice, because they had filmed some gorgeous footage of erupting volcanoes in Iceland.
Sure.
But it was really once we learned that they were a couple in love, that's what made us think, oh, there's an interesting story here. And then once we found out that they shot hundreds of hours of footage of volcanoes, it wasn't just what we had seen in Iceland, that really kind of ignited our imagination. And we decided we wanted to make a film that used their footage to tell their story, and specifically a love story about their love for each other and the planet.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the footage because it leads into my next question. With all of that archival footage, the videos, the images, what was the filtering process like? I mean, how do you decide what to keep and what to, put on the quote-unquote cutting room floor, so to speak?
Yeah, it was a tremendous challenge to make those decisions, but I was super lucky to work with two wonderful editors, Aaron Casper and Jocelyn Chaput, and a great producing and executive producing team, too. We really thought that you could make 100 films out of the footage that Katya and Maurice shot. But for us, the thing that felt the most true to their story, given all the research we had done, was to not just tell a love story, but a love triangle story between Katya, Maurice, and volcanoes.
Sure.
Maurice has a line in a book that he wrote where he says, "For me, Katya and volcanoes, it is a love story." And so with that sentence, that gave us kind of a framework for whittling down the footage. We were specifically looking for things that communicated power and mystery, whimsy and awe, things that are akin to the emotions of falling in love. We didn't have traditional footage that signifies a love story, like no shots of them kissing or holding hands or going on dates. So instead, we had to use volcanic imagery as a stand-in. But for us, that presented a really fun creative challenge, and it also felt the most true way to express just the utter passion and power that the power of love that Katya and Maurice held.
You know, I think it's going to be hard to find something more romantic than cooking eggs on top of a volcano for your loved one. Look, that even beats me, and I'm a pretty romantic dude, so good for them. So they put themselves in some pretty life-threatening situations. What is the closest you've put yourself to danger as a filmmaker or in your everyday life?
That's a great question. I'm sure there's things that I'm not even aware of that are quite dangerous all around. I've had the great fortune and joy of seeing 2 erupting volcanoes. I definitely didn't get as close as Katya and Maurice, but I really was awed by their power.
Sure.
I could see why they were so mesmerized. But I do think that documentary filmmaking itself is a profession that affords a tremendous amount of adventure, and you do have to take a lot of risks. I feel lucky to work with teams that try to mitigate those risks.
Yes.
But maybe I'll become bolder thanks to learning so much about Katya and Maurice.
Yeah, safety first for sure. What's next? What's next for you, Sara? Are you already thinking about like your next story that you'd love to tell?
I've been so inspired by certain themes and storylines that I learned while making Fire of Love that I hope to carry those into the next project. But we've been so kind of busy on tour with Fire of Love, showing it around the world, and now releasing on Disney Plus, that I haven't had a chance to sink my teeth into the next one just yet. But I'm getting hungry for that, and we'll look forward to that pretty soon.
Okay. At the end of the day, Fire of Love revolves around the love and legacy of Katya and Maurice. What do you want your legacy to be, Sara?
That's a good question, and one that perhaps might change through the years. But I think that I'm endlessly inspired by stories that illustrate the human relationship with non-human nature. It can show how deeply interconnected we all are, as well as the sentience of natural forces. So I hope if I have some legacy, it can be about those themes. Those are very important to me, and perhaps that I really love my collaborators.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one thing I want to be for. It's just like the team mentality and how great it is to work with people in this process.
Well, you're doing important work because I think not enough people really appreciate the connection between human and non-human things on this planet. So you're doing important work, and I hope you continue to tell your story for many years to come. But I got to run this last thing by you here. I consider myself a pretty creative guy, and I want to talk about the title for this show, Fire of Love, streaming now on Disney Plus. I have to ask, did any of these other titles ever fit into consideration before you settled on Fire of Love? So I'm going to run a couple by you, okay? All right. Was Love and Lava ever a consideration?
I feel like that one maybe came up. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay. Or now, don't settle on that one yet, because I got 2 more for you. How about Matrimony and Magma?
That's a great one, too.
Okay. And finally, I know it's too late, but I'm just curious if you ever thought about Pyroclastic Proposal.
Oh, my God. That's the best.
Listen, Sara, thanks for letting me have...
had you on our team.
I know. Well, you know what? The next project, call me up. I'm an idea guy. I just start throwing stuff out.
Great. Absolutely.
Sara,
thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. A real treat to speak with you, Sara. I love the work you're doing. Again, director, one of the writers and producers of the show Fire of Love documentary, now streaming on Disney Plus. Go watch it. It is absolutely stunning videography and photography, and it tells a great love story, and I'm always a sucker for a great love story. Thanks, Sara.